The day the aliens came changed everything. Dr. Elena Reyes had spent 15 years studying the possibility of life beyond Earth. Now, as she stood on the landing pad at the International Space Agency headquarters, her heart raced. The massive ship had appeared suddenly, its curved hull gleaming like wet stone under the morning sun. "Everyone stay calm," she whispered to herself more than to the team around her. She straightened her lab coat and checked the recorder at her hip for the 5th time. The ship's door slid open without a sound. There was a moment of stillness before they emerged. The Krelvians. The first one ducked to exit the craft, then straightened to its full height, 9 feet tall at least. Its body was covered in what looked like overlapping plates, not scales, but a natural armor that caught the light in blues and greens. More followed, each taller than any human basketball player, their movements smooth and precise. Dr. Reyes took a small step forward as the designated scientific representative. She could feel sweat gathering at her temples despite the cool autumn air. "Hello," she said, her voice steadier than she expected. "Welcome to Earth." The tallest alien, wearing what seemed to be decorative bands around its upper limbs, tilted. Its head. A small device at its throat pulsed with light. Then came sounds, clicks and whistles that the translation tech couldn't quite process. "They're calibrating," whispered Dr. Hinton from behind her. "Give it a minute." The aliens spread out, 6 of them forming a half circle. They were studying everything, the buildings, the grass, the clouds, and especially the humans. Their eyes, 3 per face set in a triangle pattern, blinked independently of each other. Then the leader spoke again, and this time words came through. "Your atmosphere is acceptable. Higher nitrogen than optimal." Elena nodded. "We can adjust environmental settings inside if needed." The alien moved closer, bending slightly to examine her. Its face had no expression that she could read, but something in its posture suggested curiosity, maybe even amusement. "You are the knowledge keeper?" it asked. "I'm the lead xenobiologist," Elena replied. "I study life forms." The alien turned to its companions, making those clicking sounds again. Though the translator was off, Elena was certain they were laughing. When it faced her again, the translator picked up, "Such fragile creatures. How have you survived this long?" The humans around her shifted uncomfortably. General Powell, standing to her right, straightened his back. "We managed just fine," Elena said, keeping her voice friendly. "Different planets develop different solutions." The alien extended a limb, not quite an arm, jointed differently, and poked gently at Elena's shoulder. "No protection, soft, your bones are inside, inefficient." Elena resisted the urge to step back. "Our bodies serve us well. We're adaptable." The aliens conferred again, their metallic exoskeletons catching sunlight as they moved. Elena noticed how their feet left slight impressions in the cement landing pad. They were heavy, dense with muscle. "Under that natural armor." "We expected more," said the leader finally. "Your signals showed technology, but your bodies—" It made a dismissive gesture. "Perhaps there are things to learn from each other, despite your limitations." Elena felt her cheeks flush, but kept her professional smile. "I'm sure we'll surprise you. Now shall we show you to the meeting facilities? We have many questions." The aliens followed her toward the building, their heavy steps echoing. Elena caught the eye of General Powell, who gave her a barely perceptible nod. They both knew what the aliens didn't. Humanity had surprises in store. Let the visitors underestimate them for now. The journey to the Krelvian homeworld took 3 weeks in their ship. Ambassador Chen practiced his speech every day, while Dr. Elena Reyes reviewed her notes on alien biology. The rest of the team, 5 diplomats, 3 scientists, and 2 military observers, spent hours discussing strategy. "Remember," Chen told them during their final briefing, "we represent all of Earth. Stay dignified no matter what." Elena knew what he meant. The Krelvians hadn't hidden their opinions about humans during their Earth visit. Now, heading to a planet with 1.3 times Earth's gravity, they needed to be prepared for more of the same. Their first view of the Krelvian world came through the ship's observation window, a massive planet with swirling purple clouds and 3 small moons. Elena felt a mix of wonder and anxiety as they began descent. "Brace yourselves," warned Captain Rodriguez as they entered the atmosphere. "Gravity shift coming. The moment they landed, Elena felt it, like someone had placed a heavy backpack on her shoulders. Each step required more effort. Breathing felt harder. Looking around, she saw the other humans adjusting their posture, trying not to show discomfort. The Krelvian greeting party waited on a vast platform made of something that looked like polished bone. Their leader, High Commander Zaktal, stood front and center, towering over even the tallest humans. "Welcome to Krelvia," the translation device rendered. "You have survived the journey." Chen stepped forward smoothly. "Thank you for inviting us. We look forward to strengthening our new relationship." The aliens led them through massive doorways designed for beings much larger than humans. The halls were filled with what Elena realized were trophies, remnants from battles with other species. She quietly took notes on her tablet, recording everything. "You appear uncomfortable," a Krelvian said, falling into step beside her. "Is our world too much for your kind?" Elena smiled politely. "Just adjusting. It's fascinating to experience a different gravity." The formal proceedings began in a circular chamber with raised seating. The human delegation was given a section designed for smaller beings. Clearly visitors from other worlds had come before them. "Before we discuss alliance terms," High Commander Zaktal announced, "a demonstration of Krelvian capability." What followed was clearly meant to impress or intimidate. 3 Krelvian warriors entered the center of the chamber. Without any visible effort, they began lifting metal objects that must have weighed tons in this gravity. One warrior bent a thick metal bar into a spiral. Another jumped 30 feet into the air, landing with perfect balance. Elena caught the whispers around her. Her translator picked up fragments. "Primitive physiology. Wonder they survived without protection. Maybe intelligent, but so physically inadequate." She typed everything into her notes, keeping her face neutral. Beside her, Lieutenant Wilson shifted uncomfortably, sweat beading on his forehead. From the effort of sitting upright in the heavy gravity, Ambassador Chen never lost his composure. "Most impressive," he said when the demonstration ended. "On Earth we have a saying, different strengths serve different purposes." The High Commander made the clicking sound Elena now recognized as laughter. "And what strength does your kind bring, Ambassador? Your bodies break easily, you tire quickly. Even now your people struggle to stand in proper gravity." Chen smiled. "Humanity's greatest strength has never been our bodies, Commander. It's what we do with our limitations that defines us." Eleanor watched the aliens exchange glances. They didn't believe Chen, that was obvious. They saw humans as clever pets at best. As the diplomatic talks continued, Eleanor documented everything in her tablet. These notes would be valuable later, she knew. Let the Krelvians underestimate humans. History had shown many times what happened to those who judged humanity only by its physical form. 3 days into the diplomatic mission, the Krelvians finally revealed why they had come to Earth in the first place. The human delegation sat around a massive stone table in what they had been told was the Hall of Alliances. Ancient symbols covered the walls, likely representing past partnerships with other species. Ambassador Chen looked tired, but determined. The constant strain of high gravity had taken its toll on everyone. Dr. Elena Reyes noticed how the diplomats tried to hide their exhaustion, sitting straighter whenever a Krelvian glanced their way. "We have studied your capabilities, High Commander," Zaktal began, his translator device making his clicking sounds into smooth English. "And we believe an alliance would benefit both our worlds." Chen nodded. "Earth is always open to peaceful cooperation." The commander's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "We face a threat, a species that does not negotiate or show mercy. They call themselves the Nexus Collective." Images appeared above the table, a holographic display of ships unlike any human design. Dark, asymmetrical vessels with what looked like organic components. The sight made Elena's skin crawl. "They've conquered 12 systems in the past cycle," continued Zaktal. "They adapt quickly, learn from every encounter. They will reach your solar system within 2 Earth years." The room fell silent. Elena watched General Thompson's face harden as he studied the images. "And you propose?" Chen asked carefully. "Alliance, combined resources, protection." The High Commander gestured to a Krelvian wearing elaborately decorated armor. Sub-Commander Takaren will outline our proposal. The Sub-Commander stepped forward. The terms are favorable. Krelvian military forces will defend Earth and human colonies. In exchange, humans will provide scientific research, diplomatic assistance with other species, and resource support. Elena noticed the narrowing of General Thompson's eyes. She shared his suspicion. This sounded like humans would do everything except fight. You'll find our terms generous, continued Tikaren. Your scientific minds are impressive. We would grant access to our technological database. Your people would advance centuries within decades. Ambassador Chen maintained his diplomatic smile. And what combat role would Earth forces play in this alliance? There it was, the question they all wanted answered. The room felt tense as the Krelvians exchanged glances. Combat roles would be limited, replied Ziktal. Your bodies simply aren't built for combat. It would be irresponsible to put humans on the front lines against the Nexus threat. Dr. Lee from the science team leaned forward. So we're to be the thinkers while you're the fighters? It is logical, the High Commander responded. You break easily. Your reflexes are slow. Your strength is inadequate. Against the Nexus, you would not survive first contact. Elena watched General Thompson's knuckles turn white as he gripped his tablet. Humans have fought wars throughout our history. We're not strangers to combat. Yes, Ziktal said with what sounded like pity. We've reviewed your conflicts, primitive and brutal. But the Nexus is unlike anything in your experience. A single Nexus drone could eliminate 100 unprotected humans. Chen raised a hand before Thompson could respond. We appreciate your concern for human safety. However, any alliance must respect the sovereignty and dignity of both parties. Of course, Ziktal replied smoothly. You would maintain full control of Earth and your colonies. We ask only that you recognize where your strengths lie and where they don't. Elena caught Thompson and Chen exchanging a quick glance. A silent message passed between them that she couldn't interpret. We'll need time to discuss these terms among ourselves, Chen said finally. Later, in their private quarters, the human delegation gathered. The air felt heavy with more than just the planet's gravity. They see us as children, Thompson said, his voice low. Weak children to be protected. Chen nodded slowly. Yes, and perhaps for now it's better they continue to think that way. Elena noticed something in his expression, a glint that hadn't been there before. She realized then that the ambassador knew something the Krelvians didn't. 2 weeks after, returning from the Krelvian homeworld, Elena woke to an urgent message. A military transport would pick her up in 1 hour. No explanation given. Just coordinates for Facility Omega and the highest security clearance she'd ever seen. The transport was a sleek black aircraft with no markings. The pilot said nothing. As they flew for hours, eventually descending toward what looked like an ordinary mountain range. As they got closer, Elena spotted a narrow opening in the rock face. The craft slipped inside, landing in a massive underground hangar. Dr. Reyes, a woman in a military uniform, greeted her. General Santos is waiting. Follow me. They walked through tunnels carved deep into the mountain. Elena noticed the security, retinal scanners, armed guards, blast doors thick enough to withstand direct hits. Whatever Facility Omega was, the government had spent billions protecting it. How long has this been here, she asked. Officially, it doesn't exist, the officer replied. General Santos was a compact woman with grey hair cropped short. Her handshake was firm, her eyes sharp. You've seen the Krelvians up close, she said without preamble. What's your assessment? Elena chose her words carefully. They're physically superior to humans in nearly every way, and they know it. They see us as clever pets at best. Santos nodded. And the alliance they proposed? We'd be junior partners, researchers and diplomats while they handle the fighting. They believe we're too fragile for combat. The general's mouth twitched. That's exactly what we wanted them to think. Come with me. They entered an elevator that descended for nearly a minute. When the doors opened, Elena gasped. They stood on a platform overlooking an enormous chamber filled with activity. Scientists in lab coats, engineers at workstations, and in the center— What are those? Elena whispered. Below them stood rows of what looked like humanoid machines, metal frames, with hydraulic joints standing 8 feet tall. Some were being tested by technicians, lifting enormous weights or running on treadmills at impossible speeds. The Atlas program, Santos said with undisguised pride, powered exoskeletons. The latest models amplify human strength 15 times. They can run at 60 miles per hour, jump 5 stories high, and the armor can withstand direct energy weapon impacts. Elena watched as a test pilot stepped into one of the suits. The metal closed around him like a second skin. Moments later, he was lifting a block that must have weighed tons. "How long has this been in development?" she asked. 43 years, Santos replied. "We've been preparing since we first detected alien signals. We just needed to know what we were up against." Elena turned to her. "The Krelvians have no idea these exist. No one outside this facility knows the full capabilities. Not even the president has seen the latest models." Santos guided her to a viewing area. "Watch this. Demonstration." Below, 5 Atlas suits engaged in combat drills. They moved with shocking grace, leaping, rolling, firing weapon systems integrated into their arms. Despite their size, they were nimble, almost elegant. "Why show me now?" Eleanor asked. "Because you've seen them. You know how they think of us." Santos handed her a tablet. "The Nexus threat is real. We've been tracking them too. But we're not going into any alliance as the weaker partner." Elena scrolled through the specs. The technology was decades beyond anything publicly known. "The Krelvians think they're getting clever, fragile humans as allies," Santos said. "They have no idea what we really bring to the fight." For the first time since meeting the aliens, Elena felt a surge of hope. "When do they find out?" Santos smiled thinly. "When the time is right. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage." The alarm blared 3 times before cutting to emergency lighting. Eleanor had been in the middle of analyzing Krelvian biological samples when the research station shook violently. "What's happening?" she called out to Dr. Patel across the lab. "Unknown vessels approaching," the station AI announced in its calm voice. "All personnel to emergency stations." Through the lab's viewport, Elena saw them, dark ships with strange organic protrusions moving like predatory fish through space. The Nexus. They weren't supposed to reach this sector for months. "All human personnel report to evacuation area," commanded a Krelvian voice over the intercom. "This is not a drill." Another explosion rocked the station. Elena grabbed her tablet and emergency kit as ceiling panels crashed down nearby. In the corridor, people ran in both directions, humans toward the escape pods, Krelvians toward the armory. "Move quickly." "Humans!" shouted Subcommander Tkaren, his massive frame blocking half the hallway. "You are non-combatants. We will handle the defense." Elena caught a glimpse through a damaged section of hull. Smaller Nexus craft were attaching to the station's outer skin like parasites, cutting through metal with ease. The evacuation area was chaos. 30 human scientists and technicians crowded the small space, many still in lab coats or maintenance uniforms. Captain Lee was trying to organize everyone into groups for the escape pods. 6 per pod, take only essential equipment. She shouted over the noise. Another blast threw everyone sideways. The lights flickered. Through a security monitor, Eleanor saw Krelvian warriors engaging with the first Nexus intruders. The aliens were unlike anything in the briefings. Part machine, part organic, moving with terrifying speed. Even the mighty Krelvians struggled against them. "They're inside already," whispered someone behind her. Elena made a split-second decision. Instead of joining the evacuation line, she slipped through a maintenance door. If what she suspected was about to happen, someone needed to witness it. She moved through service tunnels, hearing the sounds of battle growing louder. The station groaned like a dying animal as systems failed one by one. Emergency force fields flickered on and off, struggling to contain hull breaches. Finding a security station, Eleanor accessed the cameras. The sight made her blood run cold. Krelvian warriors were fighting fiercely, but they were outnumbered. The Nexus creatures moved unnaturally fast, their limbs transforming into weapons as needed. Where 1 Krelvian fell, 3 more Nexus appeared. Defense. "Perimeter breached in sections 12 through 17, reported the station AI, its voice still eerily calm. "Structural integrity at 42%. Elena patched into the communication system. She heard the Krelvian commander ordering the last of his forces to fall back to the central hub. "How many escape pods have launched?" he demanded. "4 pods away, Commander. 2 remaining. Send them now." With or without full capacity. The station rocked again. Through the camera feeds, Elena watched a Krelvian warrior being overrun by 3 Nexus drones. Despite his strength and natural armor, he couldn't match their adaptability. Suddenly, her tablet pinged. A secured message from Earth Command. "Atlas units dispatched, ETA 18 minutes. Maintain observation if possible. Avoid capture at all costs." Elena's heart raced. They were coming. But could they arrive in time? The Krelvians were being pushed back room by room. Soon there would be nowhere left to retreat. She found a maintenance crawl space with a view of the main docking bay. There she would wait and watch, either for the end or for humanity's moment to reveal its true strength. Elena pressed herself against the wall of the maintenance shaft, trying to control her breathing. The station's emergency systems whined as they struggled to maintain life support. Through a damaged grating, she could see into the main docking bay, where the last dozen Krelvian warriors had formed a defensive circle. They were surrounded by Nexus forces, bizarre combinations of metal and flesh that moved like nothing Elena had ever seen. "Stand your ground," bellowed Commander Zakatal, his armor scorched and damaged. "Reinforcements will come." But Elena knew the Krelvian fleet was hours away. The station would be lost by then. A sudden vibration shook the deck plates. Not an explosion. Something had docked. The Krelvians tensed, expecting more Nexus troops. Instead, the emergency channel on Elena's tablet burst to life. "This is Captain Rivera, Earth Special Forces. We are boarding now. All surviving personnel. Hold position." The Krelvians looked at each other in confusion. Earth forces. What could fragile humans possibly do? The auxiliary docking port blew open. From the smoke emerged what looked like metal coffins, sleek, sealed containers sliding into the bay on automated platforms. The Nexus immediately diverted half their forces toward this new threat. "What are the humans doing?" hissed a wounded Krelvian. "They'll be slaughtered." The first container hissed open. Steam billowed out, and from within rose a figure that made even the Nexus pause. 8 feet of gleaming metal and composite armor, humanoid but larger, more powerful. An Atlas suit piloted by a human operator. Then the rest of the containers opened all at once. 30 Atlas units stepped out, their movements fluid and precise, despite weighing half a ton each. The neural interfaces that Elena had seen in Facility Omega allowed the pilots to move as naturally as their own bodies, but with 15 times the strength and speed. The Nexus attacked immediately. One drone launched itself at the nearest Atlas unit, only to be caught midair and torn apart by mechanical hands. Another fired an energy weapon that the suit's armor absorbed with minimal damage. "Engage all targets," ordered Captain Rivera, through external speakers. "Protect the Krelvian survivors." What followed was unlike anything Elena had ever seen. The Atlas units moved with shocking speed, their built-in weapons systems firing with perfect accuracy. They leapt 20 feet in single bounds, crashed through Nexus formations, and withstood attacks that would have killed unprotected humans instantly. From her hiding place, Elena could see the Krelvians' reaction. Their mandibles clicked rapidly, their expression of shock. High Commander Zakatal stood frozen, watching as these fragile humans in their mechanical shells tore through enemies that had overwhelmed his elite warriors. One Atlas unit pulled a support beam from the wall and swept it through a group of Nexus drones like a bat. Another ran up a vertical wall to reach enemies on an upper level. Their coordination was perfect, moving in pairs and trios to systematically clear the station. "Impossible," muttered a Krelvian officer, near enough for Elena to hear. They told. "Us humans were weak, unsuited for combat. We never said we'd fight bare-handed," replied an Atlas pilot as he crushed a Nexus drone underfoot. Within minutes, the docking bay was secure. Atlas teams pushed forward, reclaiming the station section by section. Elena finally emerged from hiding as the medics arrived to treat the wounded Krelvians. Commander Zakatal stared at the armored humans with all 3 eyes wide. "You had these weapons all along and said nothing?" A human officer, Her Atlas helmet retracted to show her face, smiled slightly. "Sometimes it's better to be underestimated, Commander." The tide of battle shifted in minutes. What had been a desperate last stand became a full counterattack as Atlas teams pushed the Nexus forces back through the station. Elena followed at a safe distance, documenting everything on her tablet. "All units form up on level 3, Captain Rivera ordered through the command channel. "We're taking back the control center." The Atlas suits moved with a grace that seemed impossible for their size. Each step should have been heavy, each movement hampered by the half-ton of armor and weapon systems. Instead, the neural interfaces translated the pilot's intentions into fluid motion. Where Krelvian warriors relied on natural strength, humans used technology to multiply their abilities beyond anything their alien allies had imagined possible. "Watch your left," shouted one operator as a Nexus drone burst through a wall panel. The pilot's reaction was instant, a sideways dodge followed by a precision shot that caught the creature mid-lunge. The neural link allowed humans to use their natural reflexes and hand-eye coordination, qualities the Krelvians had dismissed as inferior to their own. Another section of the station had decompressed, the vacuum of space pulling at loose equipment. While the Krelvians needed special gear to survive, the Atlas units simply activated their environmental seals and continued fighting. 3 operators pushed through the airless corridor, their suits thrusters allowing perfect control, even without gravity. "They're adapting to our weapons," warned Lieutenant Cho over the comm. Sure enough, the Nexus drones were developing thicker armor plates where humans had targeted them before. "Then we adapt faster," Rivera responded. "Switch to thermal lances." The Atlas suit's modular weapon systems reconfigured, shifting from projectiles to energy beams that bypassed the new Nexus defenses. This quick tactical shift caught the enemy unprepared, and another dozen drones fell. Elena noticed something the Krelvians had missed. While their warriors tired as the battle dragged on, the human operators maintained their intensity. The suit's power systems compensated for muscle fatigue, while built-in stimulant dispensers kept the pilots alert. Human endurance, another trait the Krelvians had mocked, was proving decisive in the extended fight. "Control center secured," reported a team leader. Moving to engineering, on the main deck, Elena found Commander Zektal watching the tactical display with his officers. The station schematic showed blue dots, Atlas units, systematically clearing red areas of Nexus presence. "They're driving them back to their boarding points," a Krelvian officer said in disbelief. Another section of the display showed the space around the station. More human ships had arrived, their designs unlike anything the Krelvians had seen before. Not the clumsy vessels humans had shown them, but sleek, powerful warships that launched swarms of fighter craft against the Nexus fleet. "You concealed your true capabilities from us," Zektal said when he noticed Elena. His tone held no accusation, only a new respect. "We needed to understand the threat first," she replied, "and sometimes being underestimated is an advantage." Through a viewport, Elena watched as an Atlas operator grappled with a Nexus drone twice its size. The suit's systems analyzed the enemy's movement patterns and compensated, turning the human pilot's intuitive combat skills into devastating efficiency. The drone's adaptive armor couldn't match the speed of human thought, coupled with mechanical power. "Your people fight differently than ours," observed a Krelvian warrior nursing a wounded limb. "We rely on strength and natural weapons. You use your machines like they're part of you." "That's because they are," Elena said. "Humans have always used tools to overcome our limitations. It's not our bodies that make us dangerous. It's what we can create." The battle for the research station ended with the last Nexus ship retreating into deep space. Repair crews worked to seal hull breaches, while medical teams treated the wounded. In the main conference room, the mood was tense. High Commander Zakatal sat with his senior officers on one side of the table. Their postures were stiff, their three-eyed gazes fixed on the humans across from them. Ambassador Chen had arrived on an emergency diplomatic shuttle. He looked calm despite the gravity of the situation. General Thompson stood beside him, along with Captain Rivera, still wearing the base layer suit that connected to her Atlas armor. "How you deceived us," Zektal began, his translator making the clicks and whistles sound almost angry. Our alliance was founded on shared knowledge and capabilities. Elena sat quietly in the corner, recording everything. She noticed how the Krelvians' usual confidence had been replaced by something new, caution, perhaps even respect. "We shared what was necessary," Chen replied evenly. "Just as you did." "Necessary?" A Krelvian officer slammed his armored fist on the table. "You showed us obsolete weapons, primitive ships. You led us to believe humans were defenseless without our protection." Chen remained unruffled. "And you showed us only what supported your view of Krelvians as the superior species. Diplomacy often begins with careful revelations," the High Commander leaned forward. "The Atlas weapons, how long have you had this technology?" "They're not weapons," General Thompson cut in. "They're tools, extensions of ourselves." "The first prototypes were built 50 Earth years ago," Chen explained. "Each generation has improved upon the last." "Impossible," muttered a Krelvian scientist. "Your public technology shows no signs of such advancement." Chen smiled slightly. "Humanity learned long ago to keep some advantages private, especially after we detected signals from beyond our system." The room fell silent. Eleanor could see the Krelvians processing this information, reassessing everything they thought they knew about humans. "Why hide your strength?" Zektal finally asked. "You could have commanded more respect, better terms in our alliance, and missed the opportunity to learn how you treat those you consider weaker." Chen raised an eyebrow. "We needed to understand our potential allies fully." The High Commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation Elena had learned to recognize. "Your bodies are still fragile," he insisted. "Without these machines, you remain physically inferior." "Perhaps," Chen acknowledged with a slight nod. "But that's always been humanity's path. We don't evolve our bodies, we evolve our tools." He gestured to Captain Rivera, who activated a holographic display showing Atlas units in action during the battle. "What you see as our greatest weakness, our adaptability born from physical limitations, is actually our greatest strength," Chen continued. "Your warriors are born strong. Ours learn to become strong in different ways." Zikatal studied the footage, particularly the moments showing human operators adapting tactics mid-battle. "The alliance terms must be renegotiated," the High Commander announced finally. "Yes," agreed Chen, "as equals this time." Elena watched the Krelvians' body language shift. The dismissive postures were gone. For the first time, they were looking at humans not as clever pets to be protected, but as partners to be respected, perhaps even feared a little. "Equal contribution to defense," Ziktal stated. "Equal voice in strategy." Chen nodded. "And equal respect for different approaches to warfare. Your natural strengths are technological ones. The Nexus will return," a Krelvian officer warned. "And when they do," Chen replied, "they'll face both our species at full strength. No more secrets between allies." The training facility buzzed with activity as Elena walked through the main floor. 12 months had passed since the Nexus attack, and what a difference a year had made. Where once the Krelvians had looked down on humans with barely concealed contempt, now they worked alongside them as true partners. "Dr. Reyes, we need your approval on the new joint interface design," called out Lieutenant Alvarez from across the room. She nodded and made her way through the crowd of humans and aliens working together. The most striking change was the sight of Krelvian trainees stepping into modified Atlas suits. Their natural armor and extra joints had required significant redesigns, but the engineering teams had risen to the challenge. 4 Krelvian warriors were now practicing basic movements, their enormous frames encased in humanity's greatest technological achievement. "Still feels strange," rumbled one Krelvian as he carefully flexed the suit's mechanical arms. "But impressive. How it amplifies even our strength." Elena checked the neural feedback readings on her tablet. "Your brainwave patterns are adapting well to the interface. Try the obstacle course again." She watched as the Krelvian activated the suit's full capabilities, leaping over barriers and navigating tight spaces with increasing confidence. Nearby, human instructors offered guidance while Krelvian military advisors observed with keen interest. "A remarkable achievement," said a familiar voice behind her. Elena turned to find High Commander Zektal. his ornate armor now bearing symbols of the Joint Fleet. "Thank you, Commander. The integration is proceeding faster than expected." The massive alien tilted his head, a gesture Eleanor now recognized as thoughtfulness. "I have been studying your species' history. From stone tools to these machines in mere thousands of years. We Krelvians took 10 times as long to develop comparable technology." "Different evolutionary paths," Elena replied. "You developed natural weapons and armor. We had to create ours." "A blessing disguised as weakness," Ziktal observed. "Without your physical limitations, perhaps you would never have developed such ingenuity." Across the room, a human and Krelvian team was sparring in training suits, their movements perfectly coordinated despite their different physiologies. The Nexus threat had forged an alliance stronger than anyone could have predicted. "We've received reports that the Nexus are adapting their tactics," Elena said, showing Ziktal her tablet. "They're developing countermeasures against Atlas systems." The commander made the clicking sound that Elena now knew was laughter. "Let them try. By the time they deploy those countermeasures, human creativity will have moved 2 steps ahead." Crash drew their attention. A Krelvian trainee had misjudged the power of his suit, accidentally crushing a metal support beam. 5 months ago, such an incident would have triggered dismissive comments about clumsy aliens who couldn't properly use human technology. Today, it brought only good-natured suggestions for improvement from human instructors. "The Nexus believed, as we once did," Ziktal said quietly, "that physical power determines the outcome of conflict. We both underestimated your kind." Elena thought about how far they'd come. The Krelvians now sent their brightest to Earth to study human history and engineering. Universities across both worlds offered exchange programs. Military strategies incorporated both species' strengths instead of relegating humans to support roles. "The next time they attack," Elena said, "they'll face something they've never encountered before." Ziktal straightened to his full impressive height. "Indeed. Not just Krelvian strength or human technology, but something new, what you call synergy. 2 allied species that complement each other perfectly." As Elena watched the training continue, she couldn't help but smile. The aliens, who once laughed at humans' primitive bodies, now stood beside them as equals, stronger together than either could be alone.